Pledge of Allegiance.
Undivided, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome to our Tuesday, January 20th school board meeting. We are going to start with our Board of Refinance meeting. Mr. James.
Good evening. First, pardon my voice, which I barely have, but we'll make it through this. The first item we need to do is elect a president of the Board of Finance meeting.
Hi, Mr. James. I'd like to recommend Cindy Seuss for president and Nicole Kelly for secretary.
All right, we have a motion for a president and a secretary. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ms. Talent. We'll do individual roll call. Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Talent.
Aye.
Dr. Malco. Aye. Ms. Kelly.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. The first item that we are required to do is report on the fiscal health of the school corporation. So back in 2019, the state came up with, multiple different indicators and data points to go over at the Board of Finance meeting. So in your board packet from last week, there are 7 different charts and graphs that we're going to go over. At your workstation this evening, I wrote a little summary of each of those and the highlights of each one. So the first chart is our average daily membership, and this shows that, as you can see from the graph, we've had a pretty steady enrollment for as far back as this chart goes, about 10 years. We have talked about multiple times how we have started to see a decline in our enrollment, not only here, but almost in every school district across the state, just with the demographics of less kindergartners coming in than we have seniors going out. There's also the piece of the voucher expansion is leading more students to not come to the public schools in general and using those dollars to potentially go to parochial schools. So as you can see on that first chart, our ADM, the last year reported on here is 24-25. As noted in the fall, we are down an additional 271 kids here for the 25-26 school year. So the next chart is a demographics chart showing the number of free and reduced lunch, special education, and ELL students that we have in our district. And for all 3 of those data points, you can see that we've generally seen a steady increase over the years. The free and reduced amounts topped off in the 21-22 school year and has gone down a little bit since, but our special ed numbers rise and our ELL numbers continue to rise. And I think one of the reasons why this is put in here as a data point is we know that the funding that we get from the state doesn't necessarily cover the cost for those special ed and those ELL programs. So if we're seeing a large increase in that, that means that we need to be conscious of that, and it's going to take more of our local dollars to go to those programs and provide the services that those students need. The next chart shows our fund balances for the last 10 years. This is a combination of all of our funds. So it has, in addition to our operating funds that I will report on during my section later in the meeting, which we do quarterly, this also takes into consideration all other funds. For example, if we had any construction dollars or food service, grants, those are all in these balances as a total.
Gotcha.
So.
Thank you. Thank you, Dante.
Thank you, Howard. So you can see that our balances have increased over steadily over the last few years, particularly the last 2 years. We have purposely been cautious on our expenditures, not knowing what was going to be coming down from the state. in terms of school funding, and we want to make sure that we have dollars available to give pay raises to our staff each year. And additionally, with the rise in health insurance costs, we want to make sure we have a good foundation and good reserves for a total of our fund balances there. Additionally, the pessimist in me realizes we haven't had a recession in a long time, and all the economists say that we're due. And so in those instances, you're going to want to have healthy reserves. So we've been consciously aware of this, and knowing that, hey, the more that we have there in the cash balance, there's a possibility that's more dollars available in the future to utilize for pay increases and programs in the classroom. Any questions so far? No? Thank you. All right, so the next chart shows our annual deficit and/or surplus of our funds. The green bars represent our revenue, and the blue bar represents our expenditures each of the years. And you can see on the first 5 or 6 years of this chart, from 2014 through 2018, we were really hovering at the margin and to the point where our expenditures were exceeding our revenue. And that was prior to our first operating referendum that we won in 2018, and then that money started to flow in 2019. And you can see from that point on, our revenue each year has exceeded our expenditures. We're very conscious of that. On the other hand, we're not here to hoard money. We are very conscious of our taxpayers. And so we want to be right at that margin as close as possible. So you can see there that we're on the correct side, so to speak, with our revenues exceeding our expenditures here for the last 6 years. The next chart is our fund balances that we talked about on the prior slide, but we've shown that as a percentage of our expenditures. And it used to be that they wanted that to be 15-ish% of your amounts. I've told the board before, in our education fund, which is 85% salaries and benefits, we don't have too many surprises that happen in that fund. We know what the payroll and the benefits are going to be each year, so we've always felt that it's okay to have a lower cash balance there. However, it is our operations fund, which is our facilities and transportation, where you just don't know when something's going to happen with a roof or a boiler HVAC system. So because of that, and now even particularly with the changes in Senate Enrolled Act 1, we are hearing from Standard & Poor's, the rating agency, that they want to see fund balances as a percentage of expenditures over 30%. And so currently we're hovering around 40. Now again, this takes into consideration all of our funds. So when you look at just our operating funds of our education fund, operations and referendum fund, we're in the 35% area there, exceeding that 30, and still having healthy reserves for anything that may come up in the future. The next chart is a breakdown of our revenue by type, and each color represents a different source of dollars. You can see the big blue area is the largest section, and that represents our state revenue, which is our tuition support that we get for the state for our education fund. Our local tax revenue, which is the one on the bottom, has been pretty steady. It did creep up a little bit in 2019 when we first passed our operating referendum. And you'll also see a large purplish color there in the middle that kind of went away in 2019. And that represented the old Westlake Special Education Co-op, where we were the co-op. But once that was dissolved, we were no longer receiving money from the school town of Munster for the operation of that. So that's how that's colored as other local revenue. That one kind of went away. But you can see that all the other colors are pretty consistent. Those little green bars are when we've done a GO bond. So we did one in 2016. We've done one in 2023, which was a little bit larger. But overall, our revenues have been very steady, and that is a sign of healthy financial position. And then finally, the last chart shows what percentage of our revenue comes from our operating referendum. And we went through this a lot over the last 6 months. And this percentages are a little understated. Excuse me. The reason why this is an important chart is so the board in our community knows that if an operating referendum was not renewed, how much of your revenue are you going to be out? We look at it as more of a total of our operating funds of, again, the three main funds I talked about. And we look at that percentage, it's, around 11%. This chart shows more in the 8% range, but again, that's all of our funds on their books. So when you have a larger pool, and by the math, it comes out to, it's showing around 8%. Again, we are very thankful for our community for realizing the importance of that referendum money that we've been getting, and we are appreciative of the renewal that we received here in November, in which we will keep our financial stability and keep our school corporation in a healthy place, for the near future. So before I move on to the next item, are there any questions over those fiscal indicators? Janice?
Mr. James, I have a question, just curious as to your thoughts about Standard & Poor's wanting to see a fund balance over 30%.
Yep.
What's your thought about that? And
Well, I think they see the uncertainty of the new legislation that was passed last year. And not necessarily uncertainty, but they know how that is going to affect school districts across the entire state. And so they want to be able to see how, knowing that districts are going to see a decrease in their revenue if they don't did what we did here and getting more money from our public. But when they know that your revenue is going to be going down, they want to make sure you have a higher amount of cash on hand in order to offset that for that time frame where it's being eased in over the next 6 to 8 years. So I think that's one of the reasons. There's also, again, like I mentioned, they could have economic concerns about inflation, and thinking our costs are going to be increasing, and whether or not, if our inflationary costs are going to increase, but the revenue is going to be decreasing, how much of a cash balance do you have on hand to maintain your financial stability? So I understand their thinking on that. Unfortunately, many school districts won't be able to get to that 30%, which could in turn then affect their debt rating whenever they go for a GO bond. So.
when I was an administrator, we were always, and I'm sure they still do, they dig up the data and they compare themselves to other school districts and how we're doing, and it's a comparison. So do you do that same thing with your funds? And do you find that we're in a better position than the majority or just the norm?
I think we are in a much better position than most of our peers, mainly because of the support we're getting from our community from the referendum. If that was not the case, we'd have serious financial problems, and so we are grateful for that. With us increasing the rate last year, we're going to be able to offset these revenues shortfalls that are coming down the road. It's the big talk of everyone this year. Many of our peers around the area and statewide are going to have to try to renew the referendums at a higher rate or go for ones that they currently don't have. And so, again, we're thankful that we have our community support for this, and I know we're in a very good place. I don't necessarily feel comfortable opining on another district's financials, but I know that they're going to have, just from talking with my peers, it's a big concern statewide. So I know that we're fortunate that we are past that already. So.
Are you finding that the problem is more prevalent with the rural schools?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be everybody.
Okay.
what we learned, or at least over the last 6 or 8 years, or excuse me, 6 to 8 months, is that it really some places that are heavily homeowners like us are going to be affected one way. If you're industrial area, you could be affected a different way. The farmers are going to start getting some deductions where they haven't in the past, which is going to lower the assessed value for those school districts. So it's really affected everybody. That's why I think there's been so much of a buzz about this statewide, this new legislation, because it's not just suburbia or the rural communities or the inner cities. It's schools and all local municipalities statewide. So, but each one has their own story. Some could be affected more or less.
And it, that's rather unique to Indiana, or are we finding that
Well, our state's the only one that enacted Senate Enrolled Act 1, so, but each state could have their own financial, Sure. Okay, next item, I just want to give talk to the board a little bit about our 2026 school corporation tax rate. So at the end of December, right around Christmas, I got the budget order from the DLGF, excuse me, about what our 2026 tax rate is going to be. And normally, I do a presentation to the board in spring once the tax bills come out, and I compare our school rate to the other school rates, let alone the municipality rates. So I will do that this spring. I don't have that data from the other school districts or the towns yet, but once the tax bills are computed, I will do that in the spring. But I am happy to report that, during the referendum campaign, we talked about how many more dollars we were going to need. We weren't just throwing a rate out there. It was how much money do we need to raise in order to generate the revenue from the loss. And based on estimates of assessed value growth is where we went to the taxpayer for the 2614 tax rate. That was going to be the max we can get. So now that the assessed value has been set for this year, I can report that for our referendum fund here in 2026, it will not be the 2614. It's only going to be 2526. So it's about, I'm going to call it 88 cents, but 0.88 cents less than what we had originally estimated. So it's not a loss of dollars. It's just we'll have a lower rate to raise those amount of dollars that was our goal. So happy to report that. And then the other point is, we were at 17 cents and we were looking to go to 2614, which was a 9.14 cent increase to our tax rate. Our overall tax rate is only going up 3.65 cents. So that's going to be even a less of an impact to our taxpayers even than we estimated throughout the referendum campaign. And so I'm very happy to report that in the sense we thought the rate's going to go up 9 cents, and it only went up about a third of that. So now this is only for calendar year 26. If just to refresh everyone's memory, that assessed value is going to go down each year potentially. So therefore, I would expect in 27 that referendum rate will be for the full 2614. Because it's just, you're changing the numerator or denominator in a math way. So, but this is 1 year at a time, and I'm happy to report that. So how that all compares to our neighbors and everybody else, I will be able to report back again in the spring on. So, okay. Next item, we are required to review the investments of the school corporation for 2025. And so in your packet, I detailed the amount of interest that we have earned each of the calendar years for the past 10 years. And in 2025, we earned $1,873,881 in interest from our banks our bank accounts at Centier Bank and People's Bank. This is about $200,000 less than we earned in 2024, but it's still the second largest that we've received in a long time. And we're appreciative of our banks for passing those interest rates on to us as a customer. And really, this has nothing to do with us and like we make great investment choices. It's all driven by the feds. And when the Fed rate goes up, the bank rate goes up. And when the feds lower interest rates, our interest rates gets lower. So for many a years, interest rates were 0 or 0.25%. In the last year or two, we were experiencing 4.5%, 5% interest rates. So on one hand, it's a little harder for someone getting a mortgage or getting a loan because the rates are higher, but it's the same give and take. So if on the consumer side, if rates for loans were, in a 0.5% or 1%, then we wouldn't be getting as much interest either. So again, very appreciative of our two local banks here for passing those rates on to us as well. So any questions on that?
So I'm intrigued, and you probably know the answer, I certainly don't, but in 2015, we only earned $18,000 in interest. What was going on back then? Do you remember?
It was just interest rates were for almost a decade were hovering around 0 or 0.5%. Even people's personal checking accounts and banking accounts weren't really getting much interest. So that's really what it was. And our cash balances were lower at that time. So even if you're applying a rate to a lower balance, you're going to earn less interest. So, okay. So the next step is each year we're required to adopt an investment resolution. I've included that resolution in your board packet, and in essence, this says that it's a straight out of Indiana code about what we're allowed or not allowed to invest in. All of our investments are what we call sweep accounts, money market accounts that, between the bank. We're not investing in the stock market or anything that's at risk. It's all straightforward higher interest with the banks. And so this resolution just adopts what we are legally allowed and not allowed to do. And it also states that we will continue our banking relationships with Centier and Peoples here in 2026. So I seek your approval on that investment resolution.
So moved.
We have a motion from Ms. Talent, and I will second that. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talent?
Aye.
Dr. Malko? Aye. Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
And I am an aye, motion passes.
Thank you. The next item is something that's new in the last year or two. And the state is now requiring us to annually adopt what's called a micro purchase threshold. And what this means is that if, for example, our food service department or facilities department or really anybody wants to use federal dollars to purchase anything, that we set a threshold in which we don't have to go out and get competitive bids. And so the state threshold is $50,000. And so this resolution mirrors that and sets our level to be the same level as the state. And so in essence, if things are under, if the cost is going to be less than that, we can just go out and buy it. We don't have to do any other formal pieces. Now, that being said, I will tell the board that all of our departments do our due diligence, and we're going to go get pricing if we know that there's more than one prospective supplier, because we just like to do that in our best fiscal interest anyway. So, but this is an annual adoption we need to do, and so I seek your approval to adopt this year's micro purchasing threshold of the $50,000.
I'll make a motion to adopt this resolution.
We have a motion from Ms. Kelly. I'll second that. Second from Dr. Malko. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talent?
Aye.
Dr. Malco? Aye. Ms. Kelly? Aye. And I am an aye, motion passes.
Thank you. And then the last item is to seek your approval for the removal of old outstanding checks. These are checks that have been issued to vendors or old payroll checks that have never been cashed. And we had, in our People's Bank payroll accounts, we had 3 checks totaling $90.35. And in our Centir account, we had, looks like about 7, totaling $879.94. We really try to work with people when we see that they haven't cashed them. We'll reach out to them. Sometimes those smaller dollar amounts, people just don't care about. And just to let the board know, even though we remove these and we void them, we put the money back into those funds. We have a listing, we know what these checks were. If someone came to us a year later and said, hey, I just found this check, we would gladly reissue it to them. We know it was for services or for some other payment. So I seek your approval to remove those old outstanding checks from our books.
Move for approval,
We have a
please.
motion from Dr. Malco. I will second that. Any discussion or questions?
I think it's amazing that you only have about $950 outstanding. That's
Compared to
awesome.
others, yeah.
I know the school secretaries work diligently to reach out and correct those.
Yeah, we're appreciative of people cashing our checks. We
Yeah.
want to pay people, and so, yep.
All right. Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talent?
Aye.
Dr. Malco? Ms. Kelly? Aye. I am an aye, motion passes.
Okay, that was the last item. We can now make a motion to adjourn Mrs. Seuss can make a motion to.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second? Second. Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talent?
Aye.
Dr. Malco? Aye. Ms. Kelly? Aye. I am an aye, motion passes. We are now going to reconvene for our school board meetings, and we will start with our agenda approval, deletions, additions. Dr. Morocco.
Thank you, Mrs. Seuss. We do have one amendment to the agenda, and that is under Roman numeral 7B1, Mrs. Castaneda's personnel recommendations. You have that change at your workstation. The rest of the agenda is as you received last week. Move for approval.
Move for approval.
We have a motion from Dr. Malco,
I'll second.
a second from Ms. Kelly. Any discussion? Mr. Marshall?
There's been no reconvening of the committee for personnel committee. Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Talent?
Aye.
Dr. Malco? Aye. Ms. Kelly? Aye. I am an aye. Motion passes. Is there any correspondence this evening, Ms. Kelly?
There is not, Mrs. Seuss, thank you.
Thank you. We'll move into our liaison committee updates. Mr. Marshall has already told us there's nothing on his committee, so we'll move to Ms. Talent.
Okay, thank you, President Cindy. Yes, for the redevelopment committee meeting in Dyer, there was basically a highlight that was of interest for us and our students, and that is that there are lights that are being added, including at Sheffield and 81st by Bibbich, so that may make a difference for our, for transportation or safety in that area for our students. Also, just the light poles have been updated down by our Dyer Police Department area, and that's just added some benefits to our town. Also, the Plum Creek Center parking will be expanded in this spring, and that also affects our families and students because a lot of families go to activities and summer programs are held there. So I thought you all might like to know that. And also the band shelter is at Central Park is continuing. The weather has obviously stopped some of that progress. However, it is anticipated it will be done by the Dyer Summerfest, June 11th through the 14th. And that is important to us because we have groups with ours, with special needs that are going and working with our Parks Department to have a special block of time for people in our community and children, of course, with special needs. Wellness Committee, we heard from Mrs. Castaneda today. We are having the Inter-School Walking Step Challenge. It's taking place. The committee created this activity to encourage and support staff health in and of itself. Well, healthy staff is pretty important, and also knowing that those healthy practices are in place for our staff. It does help their reliance in coming to school and being here for the students on a consistent basis, which helps our student learning. Mrs. Castaneda also let us know, as she's the chair of this committee, that the first place right now is Holman Elementary with their participation at 63%. So I'm putting the word out there. Come on, guys, let's get going. Let's get competing. And Protzman is leading in the number of average steps at 9,638. So they're on the way, and this activity will continue until the end of January. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Taylor, is this a walking steps? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part. Is
Yes,
it steps? Okay.
All right, Dr. Balco.
Okay, Lake Central Education Foundation, I tell you what a group of people. I mean, they are so organized, so high class. They just think of everything. They just totally amaze me. And one of the things that they have thought of, and they would like to invite everybody to, is the art dedication on next Tuesday, January 27th. I believe that's in the front office area, correct? Okay. So hope to see you there, and I'm not sure if there's a report on the St. John Town Council meeting, is there? No, okay. All right, and then with Dyer Parks, there's nothing applicable. I think Mrs. Talent covered it when she talked about the band shelter. And legislative, it's kind of interesting because I think I read somewhere where somebody had proposed that they were going to minimize the verbiage in a lot of the education codes. However, I read the exact opposite when I read the Indiana Coalition for Public Ed. And so I'm not real sure what's going on down there. So I'm sure Dr. Veracco can give us the highlights and just keep well informed, because it appears that there's still an attack on public ed, and that would be great and fine and dandy if we weren't doing our job, but you know darn well we are. And so to have our money taken from us and given to other locations is just, it just doesn't make sense in a democracy. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly?
Yes, the Schererville Redevelopment Committee meets tomorrow, so I might have something to report on that next time. The Schererville Parks Department, I just want to mention, it's winter, and as we're all looking for things to do, they have a plethora of programs, anywhere from babies to seniors. I just learned that they have a seated volleyball class for seniors, but if you check their Facebook page, lots more information, and I just can't say how many programs there are. So check it out. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And for my two committees, I have nothing to report on the redevelopment for St. John, but Dollars for Scholars. We are gearing up for Penny Wars, which starts next week. And we have 4 elementary, and then the following week, all the rest of the schools with the middle schools will be their Penny Wars. You know, there's that trophy. And then Mrs. Resnick and Rob Seuss are going to be meeting in this room very soon in the next week or two to gather seniors so that they can tell them all about how to apply for a Dollars for Scholars scholarship. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Veracco for an official school board business topics consent agenda.
Thank you again, Mrs. Seuss. Seek board approval for the board meeting minutes from January 5th, the organizational meeting minutes from January 5th, and approval of the claims, payroll, and extracurricular expenditures you received in your packets last week.
Motion to approve?
Motion for Ms. Kelly, I will second that. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talent?
Aye.
Dr. Malko? Aye. Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
I am an aye, motion passes. Thank you. There are no public comments regarding action items, so we'll move right into our official school board business topics. Regular agenda, Dr. Baracco.
All right, so my legislative update, you should have a copy before you. As of today, the ISBA, the Indiana School Boards Association, is still tracking 90 bills. Next Monday is the deadline for any piece of legislation to be passed by a chamber so that it then goes to the other chamber for additional analysis. They are still expecting this session to end prior to the last day in February. Couple interesting pieces out there. Senate Bill 248, this was the Senate bill that was going to change South Bend to an appointed school board by Senator Rogers, who coincidentally does not, she's near South Bend, but she doesn't represent South Bend. The testimony, according to our superintendent's organization notes, were overwhelmingly opposed to this, mainly due to the perceived lack of accountability of appointed boards. Now, I have to say, I lived in Valparaiso for a while before I became superintendent and moved back into Lake Central District. But in Valparaiso, they do have an appointed board, but those board members are appointed by the mayor and the city council and the county council. And so they're local people appointing local people. This South Bend piece of legislation would have given that authority to Secretary Jenner, and as she appoints people she knows, it just doesn't feel the same as local people who have a stronger vested interest in seeing the schools be successful. So I guess I bring this up just that I don't think appointed boards are like the death sentence, but I do think it's important that local people are the ones that are picking other local people who they believe are going to do what's best for not just the city or the town, but also for the school system. A couple other pieces I'd share, though, that I heard were reasons for this thing being drummed up in the first place. It was withdrawn, by the way, if I didn't say that, was that the district had 40% chronic absenteeism last year, and they only had 53% of the students living within the South Bend boundaries attending South Bend Public Schools. So when you think about what's going on in Indianapolis, and I have not followed that story very closely, so please don't ask me questions about it. But because the charter schools have over half the students, I believe, that's why they're looking to reorganize the city of Indianapolis and try to come up with a hybrid model so that they have some kind of a joint school board or board of trustees to manage that city. And so it kind of feels like it may be along the same lines. As you get closer to half your students not attending your public schools, then they want some kind of hybrid model. More to be viewed on that. We'll continue to watch it. Senate Bill 159 is the content filtering piece by Senator Deary. Apologize for the typo on your notes. Out of West Lafayette. It did pass out of committee, so it's going to the House. In his testimony last week, he stated that the school devices that we're using, the Chromebooks, are equipped to meet parental demands. So I haven't had a chance to talk to Mr. Moreno yet or other specialists in this area. We'll wait and see if it continues to gain traction, and then I guess I will be very curious whether or not it is easy for parents just to go in and make a couple changes so that outside of school hours, when kids are at home with a device, using their home internet, can the parents keep them out of certain games and other areas? House
So
Bill
Dr. Bracco, is that to put on security measures then? Is that what that is, the parental demands?
Senator Deary says they're already in there.
Okay, but that's what
I
this...
don't know that they are. I don't know that they all are.
I don't know either. I don't know.
So, let's see if it passes, and then we'll see where we are.
Yeah,
HB 1137, ban on artificial ingredients. the Make America Healthy Again legislation in Indiana regarding food dyes and other things like that. I thought the notes were interesting that they gave ample time for a 9-year-old to testify about the impact on red dye on his inability to sit still. And Representative Delaney out of northern part of Indy did share that he preferred to wait for the medical establishment to weigh in with maybe actual research. And we might even be getting something from the federal government that trumps anything we want to do here anyway. But the other piece that's missing from this is if this passed, there would be a lot of things that our school cafeteria would be unable to provide to students, but there'd be no prohibition on parents packing a lunch with those very items for students. So there are some things that need to be worked on in that piece of legislation. House Bill 1004, Dr. Malco mentioned a little bit about this earlier. This is what some people are referring to as the massive deregulation bill, 168 pages, removing 21,677 words from Title 20 of the Indiana Code. We got a little concerned when the first day I saw it because it talked about eliminating the ability to have study councils. Well, many of our employee groups, starting at superintendents and principals and curriculum directors, food service directors, transportation directors, have regional cohorts that they meet with. Sorry, Rob, I didn't mean to leave out business officials. But when I reached out to one of our lobbyists, he shared that the author of the bill said that a lot of what's being removed are redundancies. So evidently the ability to have study councils is elsewhere in Indiana code. So we're okay on that. I think it's important that there are still major concerns about removing teacher contractual protections. There's stuff about eliminating hour requirements from teacher contracts, eliminating the need for schools to have functioning AEDs throughout the school corporation, and then the one that keeps hanging out there on the edge, the elimination of collective bargaining. So we'll continue to watch 1004. As I've mentioned many times to board members in separate conversations, collective bargaining, by and large, the way they've narrowed it down now is good for school corporations, and to take it away would do more harm than good. That's my update on legislation for tonight. Any questions before I move on?
Right, Dr. Bracco, then okay, so this is their effort to put more local control and deregulation at the state level, is that right? That's what
I think they're trying to get rid of reporting the same data twice. I think they're trying to eliminate some of the stuff that they're able to extract already through other reports. So they've reduced the number of reports. And the idea is most of what we do now is electronic, but to use an old school term, cut down on the paperwork.
Do you remember several years ago when there was a effort at the state level to stop the redundancy? Remember when they talked about, I don't know, I can't even, it was a long time ago. You would probably
I think that
remember.
was before my time.
Okay, well, I'll see if I can remember it. Dr. Killian was here at that time. Who would have been the state? Never mind. I'll figure it out. Never
Anything
mind.
else? Okay, my second item is to seek board approval to go to the Brown and Brown Health Benefit Symposium in Carmel in February. Seek board approval for that one-day trip to Carmel.
So moved.
We have a motion from Ms. Talent.
I'll second.
Ms. Kelly will second that. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Talent?
Aye.
Dr. Malco? Aye. Ms. Kelly? Aye. I am an aye, motion passes.
Thank you. My third item is to seek board approval for the school board policies that we reviewed at the work session and our last gathering on the 6th. And before I ask the board to make a motion, there was one piece dangling from Board Policy 3231, and that policy had to do with outside activities of staff. We were talking about staff members' inability to provide remedial tutoring of students that are currently enrolled in their course, and it was brought up about our outside band instructors and sometimes our regular band directors providing private music lessons at the school. And I shared with the board at that time that as we were coming out of COVID, in order to try to increase participation, we did open it back up that they could provide private lessons at the school if they, of course, had passed a criminal background check, and that we were keeping track in a Google document of who was coming in, who was being tutored, et cetera. And so we do have that record, and I think where it fits in, it's not really remedial tutoring when you're trying to prepare kids for the ISMA concert contest or something like that. It's also important for people who are concerned about use of the facility. They're coming in after school hours, so the building's already either warm or cool, and while we may use a little electricity by keeping the lights on longer than we otherwise would, the heat is still going to go down to the evening temperature at the same time, and the cool will still go up at the same time, so it's not costing us extra money that way. But I did want to clarify that for the board before I ask for approval of those 10 policies that we reviewed last time we were together.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Motion from Ms. Kelly,
A second?
second from Dr. Malco. Any discussion, questions? Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talent?
Aye.
Dr. Malco?
Aye.
Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
I am an aye, motion passes.
Okay, Mrs. Suze, before you go on to Mrs. Castaneda, I have one more item. I did have a community member talk to me today about some of the weather that they saw in the forecast, and could I review how we make these decisions? And I'll start with what we're looking at Friday, potential below zero temperature and wind chill in excess of 20 degrees real feel, which is our cutoff. So if it gets to 5 or 6 degrees below zero and it's negative 22 wind chill, and that's, when kids start getting picked up at 6 a.m., that would be the opportunity for us to likely have an e-learning day. The timing of the decision is always tricky. For the wind chill, it's easier to do it the night before. It's tricky when it comes to snow, because if there's nothing on the ground and, we do a delay or a cancellation and then the snow doesn't fall out of the sky, and it's happened before, we look silly, and it angers way more people than those who would prefer that we just make a decision the night before. We do use multiple sites when it comes to looking at that snow data. When it comes to road conditions, we have staff members that are out on the road. We consult with the police department and the local street departments and our plowing vendor, who is always out all night when we have those events. And again, I'll remind everybody that when the weather arrives during the day, it's tricky for us to have early dismissal, because some families are not equipped to have their elementary kids dropped off until a certain time. So that is one final tricky piece. Who makes the final call? I think the public deserves to know that they have the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, the transportation director, or the director of facilities all weigh in. But ultimately, if you don't like the decision, you should call me. So that was just a quick review of where we are. If the forecast is really bad Thursday night. Of course, we would prefer to call it the night before so people have extra time to prepare. Sometimes the forecast isn't solid enough for us to do that. We have to wait till the morning. Thank you for that.
Thank you for the reminder. It is helpful. All right, and now our Assistant Superintendent, Mrs. Castaneda.
Thank you. For my first item, I am seeking the board's approval for the personnel recommendations, the revised copy that you received this evening.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion from Ms. Kelly,
Second?
second from Dr. Malco. Any discussion, questions, comments?
Oh, I really question B2.
Me too. Okay.
Just teasing, of course.
I know.
I know.
I,
Well, and actually B1 too. Okay.
Okay. All right, in section 1, B2. All right, Mr. Marshall,
Why, aye.
Mrs. Talon,
Aye.
Dr. Malco,
I,
Ms. Kelly,
Aye.
I have an aye too. Motion does pass.
Those did not sound like very excited ayes, and I share your lack of enthusiasm for that. For my second item, I am seeking the board's approval for the professional leave request.
move for approval.
We have a motion from Dr. Malco,
I'll second.
second from Ms. Talon. Any discussion? Mr. Marshall,
Aye.
Ms. Talon,
Aye.
Dr. Malco. Aye. Ms. Kelly.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Motion passes.
And then for my last item, I have some small updates to the classified handbook regarding overtime, as well as vacation usage, and also the amount of days for an FMLE for a family member. Those updates were due to changes with W-2 tax reporting to get in line with our certified handbook for FMLA, and also to make sure that we have administrative approval for vacations more than a week. Any questions?
Well, I don't think, it's not asking for action. Is there a reason why we don't approve this?
Actually, that should have been action required. I
Is it action?
apologize.
All right, we have a motion from Dr. Malco, and I will second that. Any discussion or questions? Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talent?
Aye.
Dr. Malco? Aye. Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
I am an aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I see our Director of Primary Education is not here, so I'm assuming Mrs. Schumann?
Actually, I'm going to cover that one as well.
Pardon me. Go ahead.
That's okay. On behalf of Dr. Bracy, I am seeking board approval for the elementary professional leave requests.
So moved.
We have a motion from Ms. Talent and a second from Dr. Malco? Yes. All right, any discussion? Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talent?
Aye.
Dr. Malco? Aye. Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. And for her second item, I'm seeking the board's approval for the field trip requests.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion from Ms. Kelly. I will second that. Any discussion?
I would just like to say thank you very much for the questions of our board members and for the responses from the administration as to really how the safety is considered from the teacher level all the way up through the administration for our field trips. We really appreciate that from all levels. Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talent?
Aye.
Dr. Malco? Aye. Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
I am an aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Our Director of Secondary Education, Mrs. Schumann.
For my first item, I'm seeking the board's approval for the professional leave requests included in your board packet.
Move for approval, please.
We have a motion from Dr. Malco. I will second that. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talon?
Aye.
Dr. Malco? Aye. Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
I am an aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. And for my second item, I'm seeking the board's approval for the field trip request, also included in your board packet.
Motion
Move
to approve?
Was that Mr. Marshall?
I think that was Mr. Marshall.
All right, so
Yes.
Mr. Marshall made the motion and Ms. Kelly second.
I will second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talon?
Aye.
Dr. Malco? Aye. Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
I am an aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our Director of Student Services, Mrs. Gramala.
Thank you. My first item is to seek your approval for the professional leave requests that were included in the packet.
We have a motion from Dr. Malco,
I'll second.
second from Ms. Talon. Discussion? Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talon?
Aye.
Dr. Malco? Aye. Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
I am an aye. Motion passes.
And then for my second item, I just wanted to update the board on some activities for our Special Education Parent Advisory Committee. So last week, myself and two of our committee members participated in the first annual CPAC State Summit. It was a virtual meeting of Parent Advisory Committee members from across the state. The speakers highlighted that advisory committees provide a unique opportunity for schools and parents to build positive parent-school partnerships. It was virtual, so we would have appreciated some more opportunities to network with other committees, but there were two small sections of the day that allowed for that. But we met the following day, and we felt as though we're doing well for our stage of development. We're still a very small but mighty parent group. So they're doing well with what they're able to take on. So just some of our upcoming meetings. Tomorrow night, the 21st, at 6 o'clock, we are hosting a virtual meeting. We're trying some different formats to try to build more participation. So we have a virtual meeting tomorrow night with a presenter from the Indiana Family to Family Network talking about the different Medicaid waivers. There are a lot of changes coming across the state with the Medicaid waivers. So this will be great for families. So the flyer with the link to join has been shared via the school newsletters. It's on the LCSC CPAC Facebook group page. I have the link, so if anybody listening is interested in that, reach out. And then the nominations for our annual Impact Awards should be going out this week, we hope. And then those awards will be presented at the March 2nd board meeting. So that's always a positive event for us. So that's what is coming up for the Special Education Parent Advisory. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our Director of Business Services, Mr. James Skin.
Thank you. Excuse me. So we're now into January, and so I'm going to give the board a quarterly financial report. So at your station, you'll have two legal-sized spreadsheets in front of you. The first one, if you look in the top left-hand corner, will say fiscal year 26 cash flow for the education fund. We are halfway through the year already. So this represents actual activity posted from July through December with our estimated revenues and expenditures for the next 6 months. And if we go from the top left to the bottom right-hand corner, currently we are on track to have our revenues exceed our expenditures by about $875,000. That's within about 1.5% of our estimated expenditures. As I said earlier, we try to be as close to the margin on that and to push all the dollars we're receiving from the state into the classroom. Just a couple points on the revenue side. Of the almost $72.2 million of total revenue, over $71 million of that is from the state tuition support formula, you had the first three lines together there for that amount. And so, as we've talked about, our funding for classroom activities for our teachers is all depending on the state budget and then our ADM count and our funding that way. So that's the big provider there. And then on the expenditure side, all those classifications are, as you can see, the majority of our money is for salaries and benefits out of the education fund. We do transfer money each month out to the operations fund, but currently we are projected to spend to transfer approximately 5.8% of that revenue. The state doesn't want you to transfer more than 15%. So the fact that we are hovered around 6 and actually even less than 6 is, we're really proud of that, which means we're still pushing more dollars to the classroom and support areas for our students instead of operational pieces there. So our education fund is running very well here for this fiscal year. Any questions on that before I go to the next page? Okay, well, as we often say, it's more than just the education fund. We have our operations fund and our referendum fund that all flow together for really how we're operating all the time. And this spreadsheet takes all those into consideration. And again, this is actual expenditures through December with estimates for the remaining 6 months of this fiscal year. And then if we go to the bottom right-hand corner to see how we're projected to right now I'm going to forewarn you here, it says approximately $4.7 million to the good. However, if you look in the June column for the first line in revenues, excuse me, you're going to see a large $19 million figure here, and that is because of our increased referendum money coming in with the new rate, which will then be, we're going to be getting money early in order for that revenue shortfall that's coming over the next 6 years. So since that money will come in the last week of June, cash flow wise, it is in this fiscal year, but about 3.2 million of that is for the increase in the referendum money, which we will have off to the side. So really, we're projected currently to run maybe about $1.5 million to the good. Again, you never know what's going to happen and what's going to pop up on a facility need or anything else. So we're happy with those numbers. And again, it just goes to show that we have a strong fiscal health here for the school district. We're currently looking at, as I mentioned during the Board of Finance meeting, about our percentage of expenditures in our fund balance. So if you look at the very top in the middle, there's a 36.07% figure there. That's kind of where we're averaging as a cash balance. So exceeding that 30% that the S&P is looking for. So we're happy with that. We like our reserves and we like what we're able to do for our teachers and all of our staff and for the classroom. So things are running well. So do you have any questions on that financial report?
Rob, I look at this and I see all these categories. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you have tons of checks that you have written. So how often do you balance your checkbooks?
Every month.
What?
Now, well, we reconcile the bank every month.
Every month, wow.
You've seen the claims docket. So we're cutting a couple hundred checks every month to vendors. Payroll's great because most people are direct deposits.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't have to worry about checks. One of the reasons why you didn't see too many uncashed payroll checks, the only time we're writing a physical payroll check is maybe we have a student worker who doesn't have a bank account, and it might be just they're helping out or they're working in the auditorium or at the pool as a lifeguard. And so as much as we encourage the direct deposit for them, sometimes it might just be a one-off check for working. So Those are minimal. But yes, we cut a lot of checks. This is a big place, but that's
Yeah.
okay. That's what we do.
Wow,
So,
great, thank you.
okay. My second item is to seek your approval for the professional leave request that was in your board packet.
So moved.
We have a motion for Mr. Marshall,
Second?
second from Dr. Malco. Any discussion? Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talent? Aye. Dr. Malco?
Aye.
Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. And my last item is to seek your approval for the donations that were included in your board packet.
Motion to approve those?
Motion for Ms. Kelly,
Second?
second from Mrs. Talent. Any discussion? Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Talent? Aye. Dr. Malcolm? Aye. Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. There are no public comments for this evening, so we'll move into our board comments and consideration of future agenda items. Mr. Marshall?
I have nothing to say this evening.
Thank you. Ms. Talent?
I'm glad to see that the safety for our students, thank you, Dr. Varacco, for letting us know about the weather. Thank you for letting us know about the weather considerations and how many people you consult with in order to make sure that the students are safe. Thank you so much for that. And we really are glad that we have January moving right along.
Thank you. Dr. Malco?
Oh, it's kind of a bittersweet night tonight, and, you know, it's just bittersweet, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But I do want to personally thank Mrs. Schoenemann for all the work that she did to make sure that our students were going to be safe on their field trips in Chicago. Really went out of your way, and thank you very much for that. That's just a level of security that is important to all of us. I was really happy to see that Mr. McGoldrich is doing STEM training. I haven't heard much about STEM lately, so that's kind of cool. And I was very impressed to see that our journalism teachers are doing a presentation and down in, oh, it's outside of Indy, and I can't think of the name of it. But way to go. Thank you, everyone. And keep hanging in there. We're going to get through this, right?
We are. Ms. Kelly?
Yes, so Saturday, winter formal.
Oh, yeah.
So I just wanted to wish everybody fun and safe winter formal.
Yes. You all have said everything I probably would have said this evening. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Varacco, board calendar of future activities.
Okay, our next meeting is here Monday, February 2nd. So if the weather forecast is brutal Thursday night, we'll try to get the call to you Thursday night. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
I will second that. Dr. Malco. Thank you. We're adjourned.